Mini Coopers are garbage. Mini Coopers break. Mini Coopers are some of the worst cars that you can get because of their reliability. All these are things that I hear all the time, and in this video, I'm gonna tell you whether or not this is true. Personally, I've had 6 Minis, which either makes me a glutton for punishment, or maybe Minis aren't quite as bad as you're told. We hope you enjoyed the video. My name is Ethan, and welcome to Car Creations. This behind me is my current Mini. It's an F55 Cooper S, and I bought it as a crash damage car. We rebuilt it on the channel and we facelifted it to look like an LCI2 car, both the interior and the exterior. 84,000 miles. This car has had a number of issues that aren't related to the accident and aren't related to facelifting it. Sometimes it has a rough start. It's like it has a little misfire. I thought that was related to not having the temperature sensor, and it did seem to fix the issue, but every now and again it will still have a little bit of a rough start and it will throw a check engine light. And when you pull up the code reader and it says it has a misfire in one of the cylinders. But this car, despite that, has been really good. It had a little bit of a mildewy smell coming through the air conditioning. Replaced the cabin air filter and that seemed to go away. Got this car at just around 60,000 miles, and as we said before, it's around 85,000 miles. So I've driven this car a decent amount. We still have some miles to go before I even get close to how much I've driven some of the other cars. And that leads us to the first Mini I ever bought. That is the 2008 Mini Clubman. It was in this really rare blue. Can't even remember the name of it. I could probably find it. And it looked really good. It had the nice Xeon headlights, and when I got it, it was around 120,000 kilometers. I drove it all the way to around 230 kilometers. During this time, I was living up on the mountain in British Columbia, and the dirt road to get up to our house on the mountain took around 10 minutes. So what issues did I have with that car? I had to, surprise, surprise, change the shocks. All the shocks went around the car at about 150,000 kilometers, so pretty quick after I got the car. Probably wasn't due to the road because it was so quick after I got the car. But that was something that I had to do. But after that, like any R series, this was an R55, it was burning oil. It wasn't leaking any oil, there wasn't any oil around the engine bay, it was just burning some oil. If I let the oil go low enough, the car would go into limp mode and I would see a drivetrain error message that would pop up on the dash. Right before I sold the car, I had some issues with a sticky sunroof. Around 200,000 kilometers, the front bearings went. That was pretty common when you live on a dirt road. So we got those replaced. That was probably around $500. So all in all, the shocks were probably $2,000. The front bearings were around $500. I never got the sticky sunroof fixed, and I just made sure I topped up with oil, which kind of worked out to be around every 2 months. All right, so that was the R55. Woo! Oh my goodness gracious, I have not had a monster in probably a year. Alright, so the next car that I got was a 2014 F56 Cooper S. And I got that around 70,000 kilometers on it, and I sold it at around 140,000 kilometers. So that car was a little bit different. I had no issues with the car, but what I did do was something very dumb. It was a little bit too fast. I would have been fine, but there was a piece of lumber on the road, and opting for, instead of hitting the lumber, I tried to make a wider and sharper turn around it. And basically what happened is that the car lost control and the front right wheel hit the curb really, really hard. So with that, I spent a couple $1,000s fixing it, and it was still really never the same. But other than that, I didn't have any problems with that car. And that car was a manual. It was so much fun, and it kind of sparked my love for the F-Series Minis. All right, so the next Mini I got was an F56 Mini Cooper JCW. And that was probably the best Mini I've ever bought in my entire life. It had a beautiful gray paint, white striped Alcantara seats, all the upgrades and everything you can imagine. It looked fantastic and was really my favorite car. I got it with 8,000 kilometers on it, and I sold it at around 60,000. It was the best car I ever owned, and happily, I have no issues to report. I did a ton of upgrades with that car, including the digital cluster, the JCW rear diffuser, and a bunch of others, which really was the first video that we had on the channel. Because of that, I think that it holds even more of a special place in my heart. And talking about first cars on the channel, that brings us to the next car on our list of cars I've owned, and that is the 2011 R60 Countryman. And this truly was the first Mini on our channel. Alright, so with the Countryman, this is probably the car that we had the most issues with. It was an R60, so an R series, and it had one of the older style R series engines. We bought this car super cheap. We found out later that it had been in an accident, so a lot of the issues could have stemmed from there. However, what did go wrong with this car? Well, once again, it had the same oil issue that my first car had, the Clubman. It was burning oil. It would do the whole go into limp mode thing, but on top of burning oil, it was also leaking oil. So it needed its gaskets changed. At that time, my brother and I owned it, and we decided that we would just try to hobble that car along as we could. Surprisingly, the car did okay as long as we kept filling it up around every month or two, and that was just kind of an issue that slowly got worse. With the Countryman, we got it at around 110,000 kilometers, and we sold it at around 200,000. With this car, the first thing that went on it was the blower motor. It didn't go once, it actually went a couple times. The cost to fix that was around $600. And then on top of that, the shocks decided to go. And then on top of that, the car hit a pothole, and it was a pretty big pothole. We kind of damaged the rim a little bit. When we hit the pothole, it jolted the front bumper so badly it fell off. And we found out that there was actually only a couple screws holding in the bumper. And so when it hit that, it just, you know, fell off. And that was really unfortunate. But that was probably more likely related to the accident and not getting fixed properly. But still, that car just kept having issues like that. We had random codes popping up, misfiring. It had a bunch of issues, but in the end, we just took a loss and we sold it. The next car we got was a lot better. We went back to the F-Series cars and we got an F54 Clubman Cooper S. So with the Clubman, we had a plan for that car. We were going to do the whole off-road build, and that went really well. I got that car at around 60,000 kilometers, and I sold it just before 90,000. Sure, we had random issues with some of the mods that we installed, like the lift kit, or I may have bricked it a few times when I was playing with the BDC, but really that car was in really good shape. The only complaint I could possibly make was that the burgundy paint got scratched super easily, and the paint itself wasn't really good condition. And so after that, we got this car, which we already talked about. So what do I think about Minis? Well, the R series Minis definitely have more issues. And if you take care of it well, they can do okay. But even when you take care of it well, you can still get random issues like valve seal leaks, timing chain issues, among a variety of other issues. I found that the biggest things with those R series was just little things breaking, like plastic trim pieces that just didn't work properly. My parents had an R60 and the entire plastic that goes over the dial just decided one day to shatter. And there's lots of build quality issues like that, which kind of leave the R series with kind of a bit of a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths. But the F-Series is completely different. The BMW B-Series engines that they put in those cars are practically bulletproof. I have driven many, many, many miles on those cars. I have yet to issue an actual fault with those engines. I've heard of engine mounts going on them. Sometimes you can have issues where it runs rough, like my car. I still haven't tracked down the exact issue for that. Sometimes you can get leaks, rear trunk. But the quality of those cars is outstanding, and I keep putting Mini on one of the most reliable cars you can get after Toyota. So that's been our video. We hope you enjoyed. Let us know if you have any questions or comments and leave it down below, as we really enjoy answering them. And if you think that we missed something, let us know, as we really appreciate it. We hope you enjoyed the video, but most of all, hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, and we'll see you all in the next one.